Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Paris Union High School District Board meeting. We're going to reconvene in public session. Item 5.1. Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And the time is 5:07. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. We have the invocation by Trustee Nellison. 6.1. Let's please have a moment of silence for one of our students who committed suicide over the holiday break, and his family affected as well. Thank you. Okay, at this time, we're going to recess the Paris Union High School Board meeting to conduct the California Military Institute Board meeting. We recess. We're going to reopen the regular meeting of the Paris Union High School District at 5:37. We're now on item 8.1. It's an action item, revision, adoption, ordering of agenda for. Okay. Got it. You got it? Okay. All right. So item 8.1, do I have a motion? You can vote now. Eight point one is passed 4-0. We move to the next item. 9.1. It's an action item, business, proposed high school attendance boundaries to be implemented for the 2021-22 school year with the opening of Liberty High School.
So moved. Second.
We have Member Nellison and Dr. Rouse. Okay. Now we're going to call up at this time Mr. Fred Good to give a presentation concerning this.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Bennett, and members of cabinet. First of all, thank you for putting this at the beginning of the agenda. I know you're responding to the input that we received at the last meeting, so greatly appreciate that. It's interesting. The last 4 public meetings we've discussed this item, so there's been a lot of discussion. But tonight, what I want to do is, even though we've really studied this for about 6 months, at our December 18th public hearing that we had, there was quite a bit of input from the community. And what I think is only fair is tonight, what I'd like to do is present 4 alternatives that represent what I believe that we heard from the community, and really present the data that supports or that was used to analyze each of those 4 alternatives. So just kind of in a nutshell, what I believe we heard was we had presented alternative number 1, which is still depicted as that, as the boundary for Liberty High School going up to Newport Road, Dominigoni Parkway. So that was alternative 1. What I think we heard was a request for the Liberty High School boundary to be moved north and be coterminous with or the same as the Menifee Union School District boundaries. So I've called that alternative number 2. Alternative number 3 we heard from some residents within Heritage Lake that can we include all of Heritage Lake within the new Liberty High School boundaries? So what I did was I created alternative 3. And again, these are all things that I studied in the last 6 months, but I want to show them with all of the data so that it's clear to everyone, what we've been looking at. But alternative 3 would go up to the railroad tracks that service the northern boundary right now of the Heritage Lake project. So that'd be alternative 3. And then I think the last thing that we heard was, why can't the boundaries be the same as the city of Menifee? Well, I have data that supports that doesn't really work, but nonetheless, we've created that as alternative 4. So, what I think is important for the board to remember, I mean, this is a very personal item for a lot of people. I have 3 children. None of them will be attending any of these schools, but I too would take this, very, very personally. But I want to remind the board that there's 9,500 approximate students that are affected by the decisions that you make every meeting, and this is no different. It might feel like you're creating a boundary for Liberty High School, but there really are significant implications for the other schools as well. So just wanted, to make sure that we kept that in mind. When we talked about Liberty High School, and the cabinet was certainly, other than Kirk, I'm not sure you were here yet, but the cabinet was very much involved in this. There were very intentional design directions that we went that were going to create a school, Liberty High School, that is different than Paris High School, different than Heritage High School, different than Paloma Valley. And I'm really excited about it because it's going to be a school that is not restricted as far as instructional delivery by the facilities, but rather I think what we included as the primary design principle was to create spaces that could be very flexible, that could adapt to district changes and how programs are delivered, could adapt very cost effectively to program changes and not require a lot of physical plant modifications. So I'm really excited about that, but in all honesty, when a principal is named here in the next time frame, whatever that may be, it's going to be a very tall task opening that school. It's going to be the exact nature of the organizational structure will need to be established. The exact programs that are going to be provided will need to be determined. To me, most importantly, the development of a community that becomes Liberty High School, and everybody is a bison, if you will. That's all important work that that needs to be done. So, in looking at the 4 boundary alternatives, from my perspective, what is really pretty important is, while the temptation would be to make that school as large as you could, remember that there are implications for kids that you take from the other schools. You start to limit some program options at those schools. And in a school that is trying to develop its sense of community, its sense of program, I would like to see err on not as large a beginning student attendance as opposed to taking everyone you can. It's my thought. I don't have a vote in this, but that's, you asked me to look at this from both an educational and a physical plant and a physical perspective, and so I've done so. In opening Liberty High School, I'm so proud of what you have done, with that school. I'm so proud of what you're going to be doing for the other schools as well, as a result of the diligent efforts to, with the two bonds and pursuing state money as vigorously as, you know, as you have, because I know, Mr. Bennett, when you opened Heritage High School, that school opened in phases. 4 or 5 years ago, previous superintendent Candace and I attended a Menifee board meeting where we were asked, please don't open Liberty High School in phases. Well, you're not, unlike you had to do it at Heritage High School. Heritage High School didn't open with a stadium. Liberty High School will. Heritage still doesn't have an aquatic center, but Liberty High School will. Willamette Valley High School will. So I think it's really exciting, the job you've done. I know it's been a long process. It's much overdue in everyone's minds, but you know, we don't control what the state provides in funding. We can only pursue it as hard as you have, and I'm excited that we are, you know, moving as quickly as we can. So in looking at planning for the boundaries in all 4 cases, I still feel like a logical, defensible set of boundaries is really important. I think that all 4 alternatives have in my mind what would be logical, defensible, you know, geographic boundaries, and I'll go through those as we go through. But in all cases, be it, again, focusing on the south part of the district, be it the trouble that we've had in getting the Newport Road, you know, overpass done, and then the Scott Road overpass done, and now planning for additional ones. I think the 215 should be a westerly boundary, and it is in all 4 of these alternatives. I think that's logical. You know, I'd mentioned considering the impacts upon the other schools from the decision that you make as to what the initial boundary for Liberty High School is. I'm excited because Liberty High School, from a physical plant standpoint, and even though the program and organizational structure has not been firmly, you know, decided, you're going to really have 4 unique opportunities for kids in the district between the 4 high schools, and I just think that Liberty High School is going to add to that. But I wouldn't take the focus off the uniqueness that Paris High School, Heritage High School, and Paloma Valley provide for students as well. It's why I feel so passionate that the open enrollment policy is a very valuable tool that you have to give to families, so that, you know, you can tailor, as a parent, you can tailor high school attendance as long as space is available to, you know, needs and desires of your child or your children. So I really, you know, really covet that. As I mentioned to you last time, we've spent a lot of time with the municipalities, with development representatives in analyzing the data. We've spent a lot of time looking at intra-district transfer patterns. We've tried to have some crystal ball as to what the newness factor, if you will, of the high school, what that may mean as far as attracting students. So while I'm going to present 4 sets of pretty specific numbers, they're my best guess. They're the very best we can do, and like I said, we've studied it for 6 months, and you know, but I'm giving you the best that I can. So what I'm going to do is try to go through these fairly, you know, efficiently. Each of the 4 I'll present with 3 slides: the title slide, a slide that shows the actual boundary, which is exactly like here, and then a 3rd that has some data and some you know, comments about that. So I'll repeat that 4 times. So again, the boundary alternative number 1, which is the one that I've recommended, you know, to the board, does utilize Dominguez Parkway Newport Road as the northerly boundary, and it is, you know, it's shown here. In looking at this, the school opens with a little over 1,000 students. We have discussed your desire for it to open with grades 9 and 10, and the following year for it to go 9th, 10th, 11th, and the following year for it to get to, all 4 grades. The thing that I like about this alternative is that it does create some capacity or growth room at all 4 of the schools, which is good. We've looked at it over a 10-year period in working with predominantly the city of Menifee and the county of Riverside in this case, as far as growth patterns, and we don't really reach capacity at Liberty even within that period. We get close, but the good news is that we don't pull too many kids from Heritage High School or Paloma Valley. And I'd like to remind all of us that the driver of all of this really has been attendance or oversubscription, if you will, at Paloma Valley High School. So we're getting that down from a number standpoint, and I think from a facility standpoint, I'm excited because getting the numbers down at Paloma Valley is allowing us to look at some exciting physical plant additions at Paloma Valley that will, supplement what we're doing at Liberty High School. One of the things that I really like about this alternative, I know that most California public school districts are fighting budgetary constraints. I know that that's no different in your district. So the creation of Boundary Alternative 1 would not require any new bus routes. And when I talk about that in the other 3 alternatives, Candace, I believe a bus route is about $90,000 per route, okay? So, Boundary Alternative 1. Boundary Alternative 2, we heard a request from I believe it was a Menifee board member who said, have you looked at making the boundaries go a little further north so that they're exactly the same as what the existing Menifee Union boundaries are? So we have done that. And even though it's a fairly small additional geographic area, it's a very dense residential area that we have about 300 to 400 students who attend our schools in that. So anyway, in looking at that, you certainly, can accept this alternative, I believe, but there's some things that would go with it. I believe, and I'm not positive on the number of routes, but I believe 2 to 3 additional bus routes would be required to service that area because it would predominantly serve beyond the 5-mile policy that you have right now. So that's about almost $250,000, $300,000 hit to the general fund that would come along with this to provide transportation for the students in that additional area. The thought of this starts to tug and pull at the use of facilities. Heritage High School is certainly impacted if you went to this alternative. And the problem is that within the 10-year period, we do project to exceed the capacity at Liberty High School. But obviously what it does, this alternative facilitates Menifee's desire for looking at reorganization. So that's an issue as well. Alternative 3 was the request of the Heritage Lake folks, can you include us in the boundary as well? And so this is the alternative that goes up to the rail line that now serves as the northerly border of the Heritage Lake development. Just as an aside, on the north side of that rail line, there is a proposed about 2,600 unit development project called Menifee Valley that will be coming in. I'll include that in the next alternative. But so at any rate, the rail line serves as a very logical boundary, at this time. Problem is, in looking at this alternative, there's several things that become real concern to me. It really does start to create an overcapacity situation at Liberty High School and an undercapacity or under facility utilization issue at Heritage High School. The issue of the bus routes that was expressed as a concern with the alternative number 2 just gets worse. You know, $90,000 per route. And it does create what I think is a little bit of an illogical, that additional attendance area would be very close to Heritage High School, while it would be about 6.5 miles from Liberty High School. So it feels a little, forced to me, but I don't know. I don't see this alternative as being very feasible, but once again, that's not my call. The fourth alternative is what I think we heard, why can't the boundaries be the same as or coterminous with the city of Menifee boundaries? And for, a citizen, a layperson, that I certainly, understand that. But it creates some real awkward situations for us and some real financial strains in that the Liberty High School is over capacity by about 1,400 students within 10 years. And there's a real excess of available seats at Heritage High School. Not to mention the fact that in that physical boundary, I don't know what you would call it, because you would have both Liberty High School and Heritage High School within the same boundary, and the issue of busing becomes, just that much worse. So, at any rate, in conclusion, I know that one of you was not thrilled with me in not providing enough opportunities for public input. I certainly understand that. I feel like we've had 4 sessions on this in the last 3 months or so. And I know we certainly appreciate the time that you spent on this. But, so I just wanted to mention that. But I think it's really important. I know there are people here tonight that want to express, their opinions. I think it's very important that you provide those opportunities. My overall recommendation is still the boundary number 1, given all of the things that you need to consider as trustees of 9,500 students is to me the most viable alternative that you should consider. But anyway, I'll be happy to answer questions or anything you'd like to discuss.
Dr. Freeman?
One question, you provided us with 4 alternatives. Now, I'm wondering if when others have the opportunity to speak, if they're going to come up with any other separate from these 4 that would have a basis in logic, such as what you've discussed with these 4.
I think that's why it's so invaluable to have the opportunity for them to speak. I don't see it, but sometimes you can be so close to the forest you don't see the trees, and so that's why I certainly welcome that. And I'd like to say, the numerical analyses that we've done for these 4 can be done for number 5 or number 6 or, whatever, if that were the board's, choice.
Dr. Rouse?
Thank you, President Stafford. I have a couple of questions. In terms of alternative number, well, first of all, thank you for taking in consideration the input from our constituents. And that board member that you were referring to, it was me, right?
Yes, it was.
Yes. Yeah. So I have some questions. It was really important to me to have the input of our constituents being brought into the equation and make the necessary considerations. For alternative number 2, we talk about additional bus routes. Would this be since the beginning?
I'm sorry, say
Since
that.
the beginning, as soon as we open the school, are we going to be needing extra?
Given your current
yeah.
policy, that new area that would be added does fall outside the 5-mile area. So given your current policy, you
Yes.
would be required to.
Okay, so, yeah, my question was if it was since the beginning, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the current policy, the objective is to protect the safety of our students, and it's our commitment to provide transportation to all of them, right?
Right.
So that's why we are analyzing this, because we want to look and develop a strategic plan when we are addressing all the elements of the services that we are going to provide to the students. So the answer for alternative number 2 is yes, since the beginning, we need to start investing $90,000 for bus routes. On alternative number 3, we were looking at the projection of 10 years. 10 years, and Liberty will be over 554 students. But it's my understanding, I didn't have the opportunity because it was too quick, in 3 years, because if we are opening 21,
Would you like me
22,
to go back
yes,
to that?
please.
Okay.
Because it seems to me that we have, in the first 3 years, we would be over. Yeah, so number 3, right? Liberty High School, we have 2759, right? So I don't know, what would be the capacity? Because we can, but 2,600, so it would be almost 200 students in the first 2 years, in the first graduating class.
Correct.
I'm mentioning this because I really would like to understand the process and how I'm saying we need to protect and have it really, when we make our decision, needs to be based on an educated decision, based on data, and be very strategic on the services that we are going to provide to our students. Because if we are looking at opening the high school and in 2 years, sorry, we are not providing transportation anymore, that is not our commitment. That is our policy. And we are not going to put our students at risk having to walk to the school, right? Mostly in
Dr.
any-
Rao, if I can add one important point that I think, Paloma Valley High School it's a pretty awkward site because there's an easement that goes through that kind of bisects it from 1/3, 2/3. And yet the district miraculously, Mr. Bennett, like you did at Paris High School, fit portables everywhere. Liberty High School the site plan is not going to be as conducive. I mean, we really, even though it's a little under 50 acres, there's not going to be a lot of room to be putting relocatable classrooms. So I just want you to know that ability to respond to oversubscription is not going to be as easy as maybe you've had in other places.
Yeah. No, thank you for clarifying that. That besides that would defeat the purpose, right? We had Paloma overcrowded now. We have an excess of students, and in 2 years we are going to have Liberty in the same way if we go with this alternative. Alternative number 4, if we can I would like to make sure the numbers that we would be over in 2 years. In number 4.
Oops.
Okay. So it's almost 500, would I be correct? In 10 years, we will be over almost 1,500 students.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
But 23, 24, it will be about 800.
Yeah.
800 students. Okay, something to take in consideration. Yeah. And just to finalize, sir, you said that in the last 3 months we have meetings, we have had opportunities to listen to our constituents here, but it has been our board meetings, right? And I want to say it again, it is really important to get the input from the parents, from the students, from the constituents, how they feel since the beginning. It's too late now, we didn't do it. But I don't remember, do we really have 4 sessions talking about the boundaries?
Uh-huh.
That the parents knew and they were invited to come and provide input?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure I answer that. So
Yeah.
the board had 4 sessions.
Yes.
They are meetings of the board in public. In terms of what we, cordially invited parents and your constituents to, began with last month's public hearing.
Okay.
So, but we started with, I believe the date was November 13th with a
Yes.
study session
Yeah.
on a number of facilities topics. The one we
Yes.
held out at Liberty High School in the
Yeah.
construction trailer,
Yes.
I recall.
Yeah, no, and I remember that, but I agree with you that there could be input from us, right, from the board, but from our constituents. So, thank you for providing this opportunity. I'm just, it's coming to my mind that, for example, when we were asking about the support of the community members for other, let's say the bond, for example, we went to where they were, right? We went to, I don't remember in what middle school did we?
Bell Mountain.
Bell Mountain
Right.
Middle School, right? To ask for their support. Now for this decision, we didn't go there, right? To do that. Yes, I just wanted to point out.
Can I add a different perspective on that? I mean, if you were to have a town hall, let's say that this were to be not addressed tonight, I mean, I would look at that in two ways. Not only as an opportunity for the community to provide input, but with more information, a community member becomes more ready to accept being part of that community if they attend Liberty. So I see no downside from that whatsoever, other than the fact that, you know, whoever is principal, they need to get going, and there's a lot to do. So, and this is a big part of him or her starting that task of, you know, preparing to open the school.
I understand about the big job that the new principal is going to have, but that doesn't reduce the level of importance of the
Yep.
community to provide the input. Okay, so
Great.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, at this time, on item 9.1, we're going to have public comments on agendized items. I have a card to read you, a statement from the president. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With the board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for the public presentation, depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. So at this time, we'll start with our first person, Kenyon Jenkins. Mr. Jenkins.
Good evening and Happy New Year, Board, President Stafford, Superintendent Bennett, and Cabinet. My name is Kenyon Jenkins. I've met with some of you already. I am the Trustee Area 5 Board Member for the Menifee School District. We are just here today, as many of you discussed, and I appreciate your comments also, Dr. Rowe, about how we would like some more opportunity to be part of these processes that you guys are undertaking for the school district. It's well within your power to adjust the boundaries as you need to. We fully understand that, but at the same time, it affects our families directly. We have over 10,000 students in our district. Well over 10,000, that's thousands of families that are going to be affected by this change. And just as was also mentioned, that if they have a better understanding, if we have a better understanding of what the information actually is, there's a better acceptance and everything goes through a lot smoothly. As you stated, the first public opportunity to speak on this was December 18th. That is prime time for everyone's gearing up for Christmas. No one's paying attention to anything else. And now we have today, and today is the decision-making time. What we would ask is that you delay the vote. Give us a little more time to look at it. I know that we're all kind of in a hurry for the principal and things. As we stated, we do know that they have lots of other things they can be doing at the same time. And we ask that you just give us a common courtesy of meeting with us, bring us into the fold of what you're doing. We can actually utilize our systems to communicate with our constituents, our families, to let them know what's going on, get feedback from them, give you that information. We already have it set up. And so you know where they're coming from. And if it just doesn't work, I'm on the board, we know how that works, right? If it just doesn't work, then to be able to explain it to our constituents and show them why and everything along those lines. Also to give them other opportunities. We are in Menifee, we know what that availability is. The busing situation, we're very familiar with, we know how that works. But let's give it to the parents and see what they may come up with. We know that Measure T and W now, the state just gave you the money to finish Liberty. So we were told Menifee money stays in Menifee. So why can we not maybe use that money for other aspects that maybe offset what the bus is going to cost us for the next, well, I didn't run the numbers real quick, but I don't have the numbers from you guys, for the next 20 years, who knows? Because of what I do in Menifee in the area, I know the gentlemen that are building the large Lavadana community next to you, just west. I do know that they have many acres right along that borders your school. They were going to build parks and things like that, and sports parks. That's something else. We might be able to approach them and say, would you be willing to let us do a land lease for 99 years and build some buildings on there or something else? So what we ask is that you delay this vote so that we can have more time with our constituents, not just a best guess, that we maybe look at this a little closer, and then we have more community input, and let us help you with that in the means, and just the courtesy to work through you with these things in the future as well. Thank you. My time's up, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Our next speaker is Jackie Johansson, also with the Menifee Union School Board.
Hello, I'm glad to be here again, and I hope we can meet some more in the future. I'm grateful for some of the comments that were made tonight. Along with Mr. Good, I am also grateful that this is at the beginning of the agenda too, this time. I hope these meetings can become more frequent, and then we can talk as two districts that are trying to make this work for a common group of students. I do have concerns still about separating a small group of students that have been together since TK and separating those kids and sending them to different high schools. I know that we talk about these numbers, but these numbers we all know represent kids, and we need to keep kids at the center of what we're doing. And the social emotional health of kids is the hottest topic out there, I think, right now. And this is not good for kids. It's not good to do this for their friends. I know last time we talked, and you talked a lot about the transfer policy. My concerns with the transfer policy is that it doesn't include busing. And then additionally, there's been a lot of times, because I live in that south end that has tried to transfer to Paloma for years, there's been a lot of things that spaces fill and things get denied sometimes. So the only way to guarantee that you're going to be able to fit in a school is to have the boundaries drawn the right way the first time. I'm glad to hear that you guys did another study session. My concern is still that the public didn't know about it, and I was somebody that was closely watching this, and I didn't even see it. I heard about it from the news, and apparently our news agency was the only person in the audience. We need to get buy-in from the community. And you guys have the power tonight. You don't need to vote on this now. You can pull this item and you can do it another time. You do not need to vote on this now. Get this boundary right. So from that study session and here tonight, that basically being inclusive of all Menifee kids and just keeping at least that group of students together, that's 149 students 10 years out. You know we can accommodate 149 students 10 years out. We will find a way, and things will change. Enough changes coming to this area that 10 years out, 149 students, I appreciate all the work that Mr. Good did, but like he even acknowledged, that's gonna change. But we can't accommodate those numbers 10 years out. So anyways, I think that we could experience loss of students to charters, surrounding schools that we're losing from high schools. When we hear those numbers, it's huge. I'd hate to see that. Please table this and don't vote on it until we have met with all the stakeholders from Menifee. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Mr. Bob O'Donnell, also from Menifee Union School District.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Superintendent and Cabinet. Thank you for allowing us to speak with you tonight. As you can see, we did bring a contingent of board members to speak with you because, we're all doing the same thing, working for our kids. And looking at this proposal, I didn't hear about it either until Jackie, our president, came to your meeting in December. So I don't think our community really had an opportunity to give input like Fred Good had mentioned. As your public hearings were held for the board in the beginning, which I understand, but I think the Menifee community has been left out. So I think it's important that this is pulled tonight so that we can have the opportunity to have a public hearing with the community of Menifee that you need to be having for us. Because as you realize, this Liberty High School is something that we've waited a long time for. And to cut out part of our community that's not going to be able to go to Liberty High School is going to have a dramatic effect. It's important that the students are able to go to the schools that they have gone to with their other students. For an example, as a student gets out of 8th grade at Menifee Middle School, there's going to be an opportunity where they won't be going with their other students just because of that small section that has been cut out. So that alternative 2 would be better for the Menifee community. Now, I understand that you met with the city and talked with them. I don't know why we didn't have discussions. So that's why I'm asking tonight that you pull this item so that we can continue some dialogue with our community, your community, because we're serving both the kids we serve together. So thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. We have Gary, I always get his name mixed up. Lingenfelter, is that right?
That was pretty good, yeah.
Oh,
Gary
okay.
Lingenfelter.
Hi, Gary.
So, so it's good to see you all again. I'm happy that we're having this community input session again. I just want to introduce myself for everybody here. I'm just a community member. I don't serve a board. I'm not part of any kind of agency in attendance here tonight. I'm only pushing for myself and for my community, and that's why I've come tonight. I'm going to rehash some of the things that I said the last time that I spoke with you on December 18th. When this bond measure came up, this was a big thing for the community of Menifee because it's something that we all desperately needed. We only have the one high school that serves most of our community, which was Paloma, and some of it was going to Heritage High. Seeing the opportunity to have Liberty High built so that we could accommodate all of the students of Menifee, which is what it appeared to, what the bond appeared to promise. That was a good thing for us. We were really excited. It's something that not just myself, but many of the community members, especially in Heritage Lakes, we all wanted to see that because I want to tell you exactly what these boundaries are doing to our community. Heritage Lakes is having a huge problem with this. What we're doing is many of us, once our children graduate from the elementary school and the middle school that serves our community, we're going to charter schools. We're looking at transfers. Now, I'm happy that you have the policy in place that says that students from one high school can go to any other high school within the district. That's great, but that's all contingent upon how many students are already at that high school. It's also contingent upon district lines. So one day, let's say that Menifee does unify. Now, me and my community of Heritage Lakes is cut out of that. This is a huge problem. There's people who are selling their homes. They're going to charter schools. They're waiting on wait lists. They're trying to find any way they can to keep their kids inside of the community that they've grown up in. And if I can turn your attention to the map, the way that you've drawn the proposed boundary line doesn't make a lot of sense for our community. It's comprised of doctors and lawyers and nurses, police officers, firefighters, all people who really push education on their kids. We want to see them continue to grow up in an atmosphere that supports that. And I don't know what the other communities are like, but I can tell you what we have, and I want to see that continue. I'm happy that you have all the data from Mr. Good. All that data is based upon outlooks. It's based on projections. There's nothing written in stone here. What you vote on tonight or later, I don't know what you're going to do, but whatever you vote on can change. Okay? The data that he's created might support that. Yes, there's going to be we're going to be over capacity in 2-3 years. Well, I have to ask you, what would have happened if the bond measure didn't pass? Then what would you have done? It's surprising to me that in 2-3 years you would be so far over capacity with 2 high schools now. So I urge you, I'm going to close out here. I know my time's up. This is a community input session. I hope you don't have your minds made up already by the data that Mr. Good has presented you. Right in front of you are the people who voted on the bond, or the people who wanted the money to go to Liberty High and the high schools in the area. So I hope you vote in favor of that.
Thank you, Gary. Mrs. Whitney Heath.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you again. For those of you that don't know, my name's Whitney Heath, and I'm also a member of the community. Today, we went over the boundaries and the different proposed alternatives. And I'm just a little bit curious because it looks like a lot of these, on these maps, we're encompassing some of the Marietta students as well that are in Spencer's Crossing. And so I'm curious why we're not able to bring that up into Heritage Lakes opposed to encompassing all of the Spencer's Crossing, or a majority of the Spencer's Crossing students that are in the city of Marietta. On January 11th, there was an article that was published on Menifee 24/7 that states that Menifee is going to push for unification. And I know that we had talked last time in December regarding interdistrict transfers, and that was, you know, that was the alternative for us was, well, you can do an interdistrict transfer if there's space available. Well, unfortunately, if Menifee does unify, we're no longer in Menifee district. We're pushed out to Heritage. I'm just kind of curious where that leaves us. If that was supposed to be the solution to the problem, where does that leave us? I do hope, I sincerely hope that we can get a little bit more community input from this, because a lot of other parents in my children's classrooms have voiced the exact same concerns that I have. Unfortunately, a lot of them aren't able to make it because of the time and, you know, different life constraints. But I really do hope that we can reach out to the community a little bit more before we pass this vote. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to take any comments from the board.
Yes, sorry, I'd like to speak if I can. After hearing the community, and I think community input is a very big key, very big part of this as well. Dr. Rouse mentioned it, and I kind of, not to say regret, but I kind of sympathize with their plight. And being a community member myself in the city, in the Menifee Elementary School District boundaries, I understand where they're coming from. And I would like, considering I made the motion, I'm asking to amend my motion to table this and possibly create a town hall session, like if Menifee Elementary District is willing to host it, maybe at Bell Mountain Middle School, which would be a good centralized location that the community would be able to come to and voice their opinions, give any new ideas, anything like that would be greatly appreciated, and give them a chance to be part of this process as well. So I'm amending my motion to table this for now and create a town hall session sometime in the near future. I don't want to push it out too far because I know this has to be done in the next couple months, but I would like to hear the community input myself as well.
Very good, very good. Dr. Freeman?
Do we have to have a second on that?
I think we maybe
Maybe
want to do the comments first, and then we'll go to vote between us.
I made my comments if you want.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
We
yeah.
can- we can-
I
as soon as
see
you-
what you're saying. Okay, he didn't, all right, okay. I agree with him.
Okay.
I get
Dr.
to talk
Rouse?
this much at home, too.
Thank you, President Stafford. Yes, I also agree with Mr. Nellison. And even though you are a member of the community, right? You're a community member that is affected. The community, I don't live in the community that is affected, but our commitment, we are lucky to live in our democratic society. And this is the cornerstone of our democratic society when we elect representatives, but we are not going to make the decisions by ourselves. We need the input from the people who elected those representatives. So that is the cornerstone. That is the most important thing. And I agree that the community needs to provide that input. Is that going to make a difference? Are we going to, that's what I mentioned last time. We need to plug in those variables, those potential changes in Dr. Good, sorry. Dr. Good already included for those, but we need to get that more input and plug in those variables there on the equation to see what are going to be the results. Because that's true. An important number of community members, they voted for the bond measure. But so did another part of community members. They were not the only ones. So we need to take in consideration all the factors, all the elements. And the least thing that we can do is to provide the opportunity to our community to provide that input. Because that's the way it should be. One more time, that's the cornerstone of our democratic society, and I support your proposal, sir.
Sometimes you have to take a step back in order to go forwards. I agree with Member Nellison that we should make the process whole by having the additional input that we did not get, that I think the community deserves. We have the utmost respect for you, and we want to make sure that everyone is satisfied in a fair process. So I will accept Member Nellison's motion. Amendment, okay, amendment. Now, so we're going to table this. Can you hold on a minute? Okay. So we need a second on the amendment.
Second.
Okay, Dr. Rouse. So if we vote on this as it is, it's not what we're voting on. So. Okay. But it's not showing here, so. Okay. We have a host? Okay. Mr. Kennedy, thank you. Okay, well, we're taking a hand vote, I would assume. Yes. Those in favor? Aye. The tabling of item 9.5 passes 4-0. Oh, 9 point. How about some glasses? 9.1 passes, and we will make this a timely schedule. Mr. Bennett can get that worked on. And that's the final on that. No gavel needed. So we'll see you at the meeting. Okay. Our next item, 10.1, report out of closed session.
No report out of closed session this evening, Mr. Stafford, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Next item, information item, district update 10.2 by the superintendent.
I just have a few things this evening. This week that we just started back to school for the second semester, a really good start at all the schools. It was great to see the amazing work that our maintenance and operation crew did during the break to clean up the schools and do some great things out there. So we're happy about that. I'm glad to announce that Plum Valley High School esports team competed at the event at the Riverside County Office of Education. They took 5th place out of a total of 80 schools that had started the competition. So first year out doing that. Am I stealing your stuff, Keely? No, I'm okay. Today we did a ribbon cutting over at PALS for a new community garden that they were able to put in over there in collaboration with the City of Paris. The City of Paris has a effort going on to put community gardens at all schools, and that's 6 of our schools so far that have the community gardens. The kids will be able to raise. They put in lime trees, lemon trees, a lot of rosemary and a lot of other, what else they have? Cabbage and lettuce and things, so it's a good hands-on process for the kids. Tonight, we do want to introduce our district-wide employees of the year, and I want to recognize them. I'm going to call you up, but you don't have to say anything. Just come up towards the lectern up there. Our certificated administrator of the year, assistant principal from Paloma Valley High School, Lee Alfred. You have to stay there until everybody else is called up, Lee, so you may move to the side a little bit, slide over. Our classified administrator of the year is Audrey Whitty, our director of nutrition services. Oh. Yes, I know. I only learned one name, though. I called her maiden name's Mitchell, so I messed up. Our confidential employee of the year is Brenda Arenas, our secretary from HR. Our site support employee of the year is Jedediah Butler. Jed's our tech toast at Heritage High School. Our classified employee of the year is Maurice, and I'm not Najunga. Looks very dapper too. You and Jed, look at that. Putting Alfred to shame. And our counselor of the year is Ivan Lumba from Paloma Valley High School. We're very, very proud to be able to present them to you tonight, and they'll be awarded at our employee recognition dinner coming up within the next couple months. So congratulations to all of you.
Congratulations.
And I missed one, stay there. Our teacher of the year is Mr. Anthony Maldonado, a math teacher from California. Now we say congratulations to all of you. And then they also go to the competition for the Riverside County Office of Education Award. So we hopefully we'll get one or two of you win that. But we're excited and proud to have you as our district. You want to? You're the boss on this, Joe. You're the tech boss. Or you? Should just stand up.
I want my head in the picture.
Sure.
Yeah. No glasses in here.
I also want to thank the Human Resources Department under Kirk and Nick's leadership. They did a guest teacher training during winter break so as we have new guest/substitute teachers come in, we do a training with them so they're aware of what we expect in our schools. It was great to see them do that. They had 2 sessions on one day. Thank you, guys. One thing I'm starting, I asked Dr. Newman to get going for me is we're beginning a superintendent-student advisory council at each school. So I'm going to be going out with Dr. Newman and meeting students to get the student voice of what they want to have happen, what they would like to see happen, and what they wanted for their schools. So we're starting that up in the next month here. And then we'll be out visiting each school, so we're excited about that. And that concludes my report for this evening, Mr. Stafford.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent Bennett. We'll move to the next item. 10.3 is information item. Presentation, student representatives from the Board of to the Board of Trustees. Trustee Nelson.
Thank you. From Heritage High School, student representatives Perla Ceja and Adrian Ramos.
Good evening, and happy New Year, President Stafford, members of the board, Mr. Bennett, and members of the cabinet. My name is Adrian Ramos.
And I am Perla Ceja. We are extremely excited to share a few highlights of what has been happening at Heritage since the last meeting. Santa Claus came to visit HHS and shared good tidings for all. The students really enjoyed this treat, as many of them had never taken their picture with Santa. Everyone is curious as to what our SRO Deputy Mats asked Great Claus for Christmas.
Our agricultural program hosted their annual Heritage Ag Cup in December. Teams from all over Southern California, as far as Bakersfield to San Diego, participated. Over 300 students competed. There were many alumni, Heritage staff, and community volunteers helped put on this great event. Congratulations to the Heritage Vet team for bringing home the cup.
Our patronates, congratulations to Mr. Santana and his robotics team, to the the Patronauts. A269. They received a $6,000 robotics competition scholarship from NASA, as well as $3,600 from Google. They will be participating in a huge competition over the spring.
Link Crew hosted an annual Cocoa and Cram event. We had a large number of our freshman class come to study for the finals and get help from their Link leaders and sip on some hot cocoa.
Parent Involvement Day. HHS, our club, is very fortunate to have our amazing parent volunteer, Mrs. T, who works with the club on Fridays to create projects. Like Mrs. T, many of our parents volunteer to assist our clubs, our teachers, or help teachers with creating bulletin boards, assist at school-wide events like Camp Legacy and Kickoff to College, help out at dances, decorate our halls with student work, and at student reconnection events. We are so blessed to have our parents volunteer like Mrs. T.
Pacific Annual Productions is based out in Fallbrook. Carla Majewski is the owner of the Pacific Annual Production, and this is her third year speaking to our students who are enrolled in agricultural classes at Heritage High School, free of charge. Maddie Feaster, HHS alumni, class of 2019, who is now part of the Pacific Animals, came to HHS today and shared her knowledge and experience with our FFA students on working with various animals. It is always a great experience to have our alumni come back to share their experience with current students. Assistant Principal Harold even had an opportunity to get in on the action.
We started off our second semester on Monday with our Camp Legacy Refresher Day. Student leaders from Link Crew, Abbott, and HS were trained last semester and were assigned to classes to lead in interactive activities with the class. We did a school-wide academic instruction on our goals in reading and writing, school-wide research using the California College's website, and continued instruction with our planners. Students also enjoyed 2 presentations in the theater hosted 12 of our amazing alumni who share their experience and advice high school life, transition to college and adult life. In the gym, Juan Arambul, who is also an alumni with the NU project, gave up a follow-up presentation to the first day of school about creating and living our purpose and legacy. It was a great 2 gear for second semester.
Our student of the month for December was Carrie Macias. Deborah Payton is our classified staff of the month. Deborah is one of our awesome Piera educators. And David Vick is a teacher of the month. He is a part of our awesome special education department.
Our upcoming events is a freshman movie night, Black Box drama production, Winter Spirit Week, Winter Pep Rally, Winter Dance, Mr. Heritage Pageant, and Black History Month Showcase.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you so much for your continued support of what we do at Heritage. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We have trustee Dr. Freeman who will introduce Paloma Valley High School.
The Paloma Valley High School student representatives, Kaylee Millar and Ethan Smith.
Good evening, Superintendent, members of the Cabinet, President Stafford, and members of the board. My name is Ethan Smith. I'm the ASB President at Paloma Valley High School. I'm developing a cold right now, so my voice is kind of, you know. And here with me is Senior Representative Kaylee Malone.
Here's our Winter Spirit Week, which took place during the week of our finals. Many Wildcats dressed up to show off their winter spirit wear and have a little fun heading into their stressful week.
Our winter dance had a good turnout. Our theme was whiteout, and we hosted the dance on the last day of school before we went on winter break. The kids enjoyed dancing as well as a small area we had for them to play video games like Smash. You know, they could practice for their tournament coming up. We want to thank the parents who volunteered at the dance, running the dessert table. Good stuff.
Our winter sports are doing amazing this season. Our boys and girls wrestling team are undefeated in all levels. They are 2 wins away from a 3-peat league championship. We have 2 boys state ranked and 1 girl. Our cheer team finished 3rd place in their CIF competition this last weekend and will be competing in the USA Regionals competition at Elsinore High this Saturday. The girls water polo team is undefeated in league as well as our boys soccer team. The girls basketball team is in a 3-way tie for first in league. Great job, Wildcats.
All right. For upcoming events, we got the Avid Junior Trip, in which the Avid Club will be taking juniors to visit colleges around the area. Drama is hosting a talent show, and our dance club is going to be holding their winter dance concert. And our winter sports teams are all getting ready for playoffs. Thank you for all of your time and support. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Trustee Dr. Rouse from Paris High School, well, to introduce Paris High School representatives.
Yeah, from Paris High School, let's welcome representatives Valeria Castillo and Herendida Corona.
Good evening, President Stanford and board members, Superintendent Bennett and Cabinet. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. So, we would like to start with our Panther Community Dinner. Our Panther Community Dinner has become more of a community dinner rather than a charity dinner, as everyone is fed. So, if you are in need of a hot meal, need a break from the stress or of the holidays, or need some companionship, you are welcome at our Panther Dinner. This year, over 200 Panther families enjoyed a hot turkey dinner prepared by our culinary class and paid for in full by our caring Panther staff. And then we had our food basket giveaway, which was 25 baskets made this year and were given away with no cost to whoever needed them. All food items were donated by Panther staff and students. The baskets in the middle you can see were made by Link Crew, full of colors, and the food was really a lot, so it helped a lot of people. We had our winter rally, which it was a blast. We had our winter sports and team performances. But one of the best parts was the original song, Go On, sang by Mr. Johnson, that talked about going on when life gets tough. And in the rally, there's not a picture up there, but there was, all the students supported him, having their phones out with their flashlights, you know, like a whole concert, and it was just an emotional and great time. The rally ended with our spirit competition, and the seniors won, but I don't think it was fair because I believe the juniors won. Then we had our winter formal, another fun-filled dance. 343 Panthers and guests attended the dance held in downtown Riverside at the Life Arts Center during the Festival of Lights. And on the left, there's Erendita and our teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, and then myself and him at the bottom. And then one of my favorite parts of the dance, or throughout the whole night actually, was the queen, Maritza. As she won, she had given her competition, or the other 2 girls, a flower. And I think that was a very generous and thoughtful action that she made. Now here, there's the mural project. So we have the ugly sidewalk wall with chip paint that was kind of an eyesore to an otherwise beautiful campus, so we decided to make it pretty. The picture in the middle, that's the 2020 wall coming soon. There's just a piece of that. And then on the back, you can't really see, but there's the all-class wall coming soon.
The Paris Christmas Parade. It was a parade that you couldn't miss. ASB, Avid, Link Crew, JROTC, Cheer, Dance, and Interact all came together to enjoy the holiday event. We came away with some trophies too, but more importantly, we were a community. I know Santa Claus is the main attraction, but Panther mascots were a big hit with the little kids. And some adults.
So our student of the month for January was Viridiana Martinez. For this, we get the student of the month a crown and balloons. And Viridiana is an amazing person. Last year she was top 10 honor guard for the graduation of class of 2019. And she is also the Avid overall president. She is top in her class in academics and donated her free time with Link Crew helping out our freshmen.
I know this is only our first meeting of second semester, but did you know we only have 89 days left of school? But who's counting? Let's all make the best 89 days ever. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. From Penicotti Middle School, we have student representatives Patricia Cisneros and Darius Prado.
Good evening, President Stafford and board members, Superintendent Bennett and Cabinet. I am Darius Prado.
And I am Patricia Cisneros, and we are Pinacotti's Associated Student Body Representatives. In these past months, our student body has been involved in many different activities to encourage students and grow in a fun and safe environment.
Some of our school's elective classes have done some extraordinary work.
This one? Yeah.
Some of our school's elective classes have done some extraordinary work last semester. Drama Productions Play Until One Day had its final showing with over 120 community members in attendance, including Mayor Vargas. Also, ASB's VIP Lounge student representatives took a field trip to Paris High and Heritage High School to check out their student stores.
Not only do we have amazing electives, we also have a lot of encouraging and fun clubs. NJHS participating in the City of Paris yearly Christmas parade. In addition, Stagecraft hosted a majestic snow forest at our winter wonderland.
One of our biggest events in December was our Winter Arts Night. Our dance and cheer team put on a highly choreographed performance that was one of a kind. Band also performed classic Christmas songs. Our Puma Poetry Slammers also had a competition, and several of our teachers were the judges. Our art class also displayed all of their hard work, and Drawn Production performed a couple of scenes from their fall play Until One Day.
In our winter wonderland, our Pumas had the time of their life. As you know, Stagecraft made a majestic snow forest that came out beautifully. In addition to the dance, our winter wonderland had a lot of activities like face painting games and an amazing snowball room.
This year, we have been finding ways for students to be engaged in not only school, but in enjoyable activities. We had a VIP field trip to the Paris Regency Theater to watch an early showing of Disney's Frozen 2 at the end of November. And towards the end of December, we had a game truck on campus where students got to play video games for 1 hour. We have 2 upcoming VIP events. There will be another VIP movie trip where students will get to vote on what movie they will get to choose, get to watch. Students will also be able to go to the Autoplex in Pomona to learn about careers in automotive, engineering, and rocket science.
Another popular activity our Pumas engaged in is the Puma Lounge. The Puma Lounge has been a great hit in the past few months.
The Puma Lounge has been a comfortable place where our Pumas can take a break after their hard day. There are video activities such as video games, board games, comfortable couches, and music.
And finally, our school has recently made a website dedicated to our students. It has all the information our students need, from daily daily announcements, the VIP list, links to Infinite Campus, how many Puma points a student has in our sports program.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for your time.
Have a great evening.
Thank you. Our next item is 10.4, CSCA President Josh Rushing.
Actually wrote a speech this time, so I don't stumble through it like usual. But I probably still will. Thank you, President Stafford, board members, Superintendent Bennett, and Cabinet for the time to speak tonight. First off, I would like to say Happy New Year to all of you, and I hope everyone had a happy holiday with your friends and family. The new year and the new semester have gotten off to kind of a shaky start. I actually got back from my vacation to a few different emails that were kind of surprising. So there's a few things coming up right now that I haven't had a chance to address with the cabinet. So before I air them out here, I want to give them a chance to address them. So hopefully this is the only time you'll actually hear anything negative from me other than our contract, but let's not talk about that again. A specific item on tonight's agenda that I wanted to talk about, though, was item 12.10 on your consent calendar. It talks about hiring a firm for $36,000 for a 13-week contract to inventory our assets. As some of you may know, before I came here, I was a warehouse manager. I inventoried supplies for a multi-million-dollar oil field company. You don't inventory stuff once. It's gonna go missing. And for $36,000, we can buy a program for $8,000. We can pay someone for a 10-month contract as a classified employee for and a combined cost for less than $36,000. So, and we'd actually have accurate inventory, which will also print out audits for the main purpose of this, which I think is because of an audit. So I would just kind of caution, because it seems like every time something comes up or a task needs to get done, we jump over to hiring outside firms when we're in a budget problem. We keep spending more money for these firms when you probably have employees that can do the job for less money, and you actually have some kind of quality control. With that being said, we look forward to a good year with you, building our relationship with you guys, and hopefully we can continue our collaborative relationship. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rushing. Item 10.5 is an information item. PSEA President Jason Miller.
Thank you for this time to speak. Happy 2020, and hope you all had a Merry Christmas. As with my last speech, my comments are not a commentary on administrative practice, but rather PSEA's perspective and philosophy that drives our work for our members. I am fond of the saying that you cannot put students first by putting the teachers last. I've said it here before, but that almost implies that the teachers or any employees are near the bottom of the list. I think a better corollary is that you cannot put the students first without putting those that care for them first. Education is a complicated profession. Our members almost have to get a separate education on how their job works aside from doing their job. How does their leave work? How do they get paid? How does retirement work? How are teacher assignments made? When will they work? How many students will they work with? All these things are what teachers think about in addition to the actual content of their job. It is PSEA's role to look out for the intricacies of just having the job of teaching so that educators can focus more on doing the job of teaching. The cabinet and board recognizes this. They have full departments dedicated to making sure our employees' job runs smoothly in the background. With all that being said, no leader leads well without great people around them. So I would like to take this time to introduce PSEA's executive leadership that helps serve our members that I've asked to come here tonight so you can put a face to a name. Our Vice President, Debbie Georgiana from Paris High School. Yeah, I'm clapping. Our second Vice President, Kim Freeberg from Paloma Valley High School. Our Secretary, Melanie Woodard from Paris High School. Our Director of Ethnic Minorities LGBTQ, Misha Labas from Paloma Valley High School. Our Treasurer, not present tonight, Gary Stone from Paloma Valley High School. And yes, we also have close to 20 plus site representatives spread amongst the different schools that work with local site administration. And so that's why I wanted to take this time just to kind of give you an overview of what we do as PSEA. I asked our executive board to come tonight so that you could meet the people that make the decisions for PSEA so that our members can focus on their jobs better. Thank you for this time to speak.
Thank you, President Miller. Our next item, information item 10.6, comments by the Board of Trustees.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to say to the students, thank you for sticking around through the entire process before you guys got up there. I know it can drag out a bit of time, and I appreciate the time you guys are putting into coming up to speak to us. That being said, I also like to thank the community members that came out to talk about the boundary issues. It's something that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, and I appreciate everybody's input as well. Mr. Jenkins, you're the only one left I see from the Menifee board, but I would like to have you say thank you to the rest of your board members when you see them for giving us the input from that side as well. I really appreciate that. Hope everybody's having a good start in 2020, and let's finish out the school year strong. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Dr. Freeman?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to make note for the young people here. You heard what Mr. Bennett said about the Student Advisory Council committees, right? And I encourage you to get involved, get other young people involved with it. You'll have a greater say as what goes on in your school and your community, and maybe someday one or more of you will be sitting up here. Also, you know, we have a planet of 7.5 billion people, and yet it's a small world. I was 430 miles away up in Santa Clara at a kindergarten conference, and Saturday evening I decided to go to a restaurant for dinner. It turned out that the waiter and I got to talking. He brought his son out. His son graduated from Paloma Valley last year. And whoa. We got to really talking. The young man knew my daughters who also graduated last year, and it's like, this is really a small world. Then he comped my dinners, which that was really cool. And it's once in a while I like to share a personal thing, and this was the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. At that very same conference of kindergarten teachers, I met a young woman from the Sacramento area who had my name. Her name is Randy Freeman. It's like, whoa. There were 2 kindergarten teachers at some point in time in the state of California, and both named Randy Freeman, and I thought that scared a lot of people. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you.
Dr. Rouse?
Thank you, Trustee Stafford. I just want to take this opportunity to send a message to our parents and to all the students also. So I want to ask Perla, Adrian, Ethan, Kaylee, Valerie Herendida, Patricia, and Darius. Right. Okay. So I wish you and your family a happy new year in 2020. I know that you are going to continue to put all your effort in your studies during this second semester, during the 89 days that are left. You are going to be very successful. We have some projects that we are looking for, like our English learners. They are going to be taking the LPAC. Everybody is going to be taking the CASP. A lot of students are going to be taking AP tests, and you are going to be focusing on meeting the high school graduation requirements and meeting the A through G requirements, right? So that is what we have in mind. That's the essence of what we do in education. That's what we want for you, right? And we believe in you. We know that you can do it, right? And I wish you the best during this year, and to your family, to your parents, and your family. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. I'd just like to say welcome back. It's going to be a tough 89, but you can do it. And we'll be there at your graduation if you're graduating this year. So thank you so much for coming to the meeting. At this time, I'd like to allow you the chance to excuse yourselves if you like, and I'm sure you do. And thank you so much for coming. Okay, we'll move on now. Item 11.1, invitation to address the Board of Trustees on non-agendized items. We have, again, Kenyon Jenkins from Menifee Union's School District.
Hello again. Thank you. I promise you I didn't stay just for 11.1. I was planning on staying until the end anyway, so always wonder why people get up and leave when they had. I know that they all had plans for other nights, so I said, hey, I'd like to stay and be with you. Again, President Stafford, Board, Cabinet, and Superintendent Bennett. With the recent, there are a few things. I'm going to wear two hats right now. So first, I'm going to be MESD Board member, Trustee 5, and Trustee Area 5. We recently have found out also that we know the state is going to be covering the rest of the cost of Liberty High School, and that Measure T and W are in play. It has already started, along with social media and everything else, so I am asking you, nearly begging you, please, if you would, very quickly, if you would get with Dr. Kennedy and the rest of us, and if we could organize something come together very quickly on what the plan is now. Our understanding is that T was supposed to build a high school and W was supposed to finish it off because the state did not come with matching funds. We heard during the election as well that, and during the vote, that the state was going to, and now they have. So we'd like just to know, it's already been brought to our attention, what are they going to be doing with the funds? We'd like to know. We've heard some things, but I want to discuss it with you and before the rumor mill gets way out of control, as we all know how it can. Let's actually put facts forward and maybe put some things we can work on as well. I'd also like to formally request again, I appreciated the meeting that we had, the impromptu about unification, things along those lines. Get one planned for this semester as well, if you would, with Dr. Kennedy sometime relatively sooner than later, just to keep the dialogue going and open as things as well. We will also be making more of an effort to come to these meetings, just to be present, just to be a part of it, and then if you wanted to discuss with us at any time afterwards about anything that may come on, we'd like to just have those little discussions just with you, and we'll be available. I left several of my business cards again up here. I know some of you have my number anyway, but again, feel free just to reach out, send a voicemail, email, whatever, and just something, we just want to get that communication going that I understood was something in the past. Mr. O'Donnell, I think, started on the board when Menifee started back, way back when, I don't know. He's been on there for a long time and said that that was once a reality. So we'd like to have that going again as well with you. Also, switching hats now. Being a parent of Menifee Valley, of Paloma High School, with one child who's already gone through and graduated. I have now a sophomore in there as well. I have a daughter who will be entering next year also. Thank you very much. Tonight, you mentioned also about the college credit they're able to get. I now have a sophomore who already has 3 hours of college credit. My wallet and my family thank you greatly. Thank you. But he's very excited also because he's like, wow, I already got college credit. And so that's awesome to see. I know the principal from Paloma is here. Thank you again. Magnificent school. They're doing a great job. And thank you all for what you guys do, and I really do appreciate it from a parent's point of view and not a board member. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. Okay, we'll move on now. We have an action item, 12.1, the consent calendar, approval of the consent calendar. Any comments? Oh, okay. Let's have a motion.
So move.
Who was the motion? Dr. Rouse? Okay. Okay, any comments before we vote? Sure.
The one gentleman, the president of the CSEA, brought up about the item from the consent calendar about the inventory. I don't know. I know I worked for an inventory service when I was in college, but I didn't know how, the cost of it was. And I was just wondering if perhaps that's something that we could look into. It just seems like a reasonable thing to me. I don't know.
So it actually is something we looked into, and if it's all right, I can ask. Is that all right? I can ask Dawn to come up and talk about it. Dawn is our director of purchasing. I probably should make that clarification. I didn't just randomly pick a person.
We looked at our asset management that we have here in Paris Union High School District not long after I got here, and noticed a couple of things. One was that our current inventory system for physical inventory is housed through Destiny, while all of our financial documents related to those assets are housed in Galaxy, two separate systems. And so we started having a conversation with the county about what would that look like for migration to take place in order to get all of the asset management data that we need under the Galaxy module. It has it there, we just need to migrate it. And it was recommended by the county that we need to update our current physical audit of inventory. So when we looked at that, the last time that had been board approved and done was in February of 2012. And our concern is that we have some requirements that we have to meet, primarily GASB 34 and 35, which are federal reporting requirements that we have to have showing our asset management, where it's at, physically located, inventoried, and everything, and get that up to date. We also have to show capital asset depreciation reports each year to our auditors, which currently are housed on a spreadsheet. I don't know how they put this together, how they thought it up. It's very complex. It's almost above my head. But this is actually a document that could be composed through the Galaxy system once those are all housed under the same module. So with that being said, we learned that we needed this inventory process to take place. And while we know cost is a factor, we also know that we're looking at staff and how can we make that happen? Would we have the ability to do that? What would the cost of that be with staffing? And so those were our concerns in looking at what would staff time be for actually doing this physical inventory and the time management. In order to meet the county's deadlines and be under the Galaxy umbrella before they go to a web version, which is going to happen this summer, they keep telling us dates, we would have to have everything rolled over and ready to go live in the new system by May. So we would have to physically complete this physical inventory throughout the entire district prior to May. So we're on a very limited time schedule to make that happen with staff, and we were also concerned about cost. So this was the answer that we came up with.
And if I can just add, when Dawn brought this to me as a proposal, which is ultimately how these things happen, we did weigh all of these options, and with the time constraints that Mrs. Bray spoke about, and in summary, this is to get us back into compliance. We did talk about using staff, but again, because of those timelines, we didn't think it would be able to meet those timelines now. But the laws that Dawn was talking about, GASB, the two GASB laws, do require that physical inventory be updated. It's every 2 years? Every 2 years. And that's where we talked about using staff to go in and update that inventory, but to do a brand new inventory from scratch and the amount of time that would take when we weighed the options. This was her proposal that I agreed with, and now it's before you.
Yeah, moving forward, the idea is to capture that through the staff doing the physical inventories, part of a checkout process in the springtime or the summertime, if you will, as we're leaving school. And if everybody was all hands on board and you just had a paper for your room, say, hey, are these items in your room that are inventoriable, you can very quickly say yes, and it's no burden to any one staff member trying to do the physical inventory. So moving forward, that is the goal. This was a one-time thing to get us back into compliance. And they also provide these reports as certified inventory reports, whereas if we have our staff do it, it wouldn't be a certified inventory report, which we need to show to our auditors. So that's where that came from.
Okay. And I think you answered the question. I was going to ask, how often do we need to do the inventory? And it's every 2 years. Is that something new, this requirement?
No, that came about, I think actually it's been about 15 years.
15
It's been a
years.
long time.
And it's something we used to do here, and quite honestly, it slipped through the cracks. And when, as Dawn said, when she came on board, she began looking at things as through new eyes. And
So 8 years we were out of compliance.
we were always doing the depreciation and the financial piece of it, but not the
inventory.
actual the checking the physical inventory.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in 2 years, are we looking at spending another 36,000, or what is it?
No. So this would be a one-time thing.
A
So
one-time,
we would probably do it actually more often. The requirement is 2 years, but it's better if you stay
Well,
up
we
on
can
these things.
do
And of
it
course,
every
we're
year.
adding new assets as we're getting them, but we're not taking that. It might seem like a little step, but actually checking every year or every 2 years, as the law requires, is are these assets still in our possession? Because they should be.
My recommendation would be to do it every year. It's very simple, and things get legs and move to other rooms and whatnot. So to get an actual good picture of where everything's at, I would just recommend doing that every year. And if we can make that process very easy and seamless for folks, I think it'll go just fine.
And this inventory is about what we buy, right? If we get, because that was my understanding. That was every year. Every year I get this. Hey, Jose, we cannot find this. Can you help us identify this place that we cannot find it?
That's where we will now be.
Okay.
Because you're right.
That's fine. Thank you.
Before we vote, so we're 8 years out of compliance.
6, yeah.
6.
We did it 8 years ago, we had to be every other year, so it would have been 6 years ago that the last one would have had to been done, so we're 6 years out of compliance.
Seems like I remember one when I was still working. The technology did the.
We've done it for some pieces, but not the complete
Complete
picture.
Okay.
For all district assets, yeah. So it's kind of piecemealed now, so we're technically not in compliance.
Okay. Well, I have to ask the obvious question, the hard question that we always have to ask. Who was responsible and why wasn't it done?
So, well, ultimately that falls under business services, so, I take the heat for that. It was something that was assigned to purchasing as the purchasing director. I'm not, passing on responsibility, but as you know, we had a little bit of a revolving door with purchasing, and we're very glad to have Dawn here now to help rectify that.
Okay, we like to know, I like to know those answers because we don't want to step in the same hole. I mean, if we know it's there, we can warn someone and anticipate it, but I don't know. I feel like this is not the first time this has happened. Different subjects, but it happens a little more often than I like, so it shouldn't happen at all, really. Anyway, that's all I had to say on it. Any other comments?
Thank
Dr. Rao?
you, President Stafford. Part B of what Trustee Stafford was saying, we are going to learn from this lesson, right? What are we doing in order to ensure that there are not any other surprises, that there is not any other thing there that we are not in compliance? Is there some kind of an audit of the responsibilities to make sure, because this is important. Fortunately, it doesn't seem that we get a fine or something like that, but this is so important because these are things that we bought with money of our taxpayers, and we are responsible for that, and we need to ensure that they are there, right? So, are we looking into making sure, reviewing everything? There are some sayings in Spanish about that, but I don't know how that would translate into English. But just to be proactive, you know. Have you thought about any?
Well, and that's, I'm not sure I'm also not quite sure the right word. The interesting thing about this is so the checklist that you mentioned, the checks and balances is how I interpret that. That's why we have an outside independent audit. And the reason I say that this is interesting is because, as you know, we have not had any audit findings because we've done a lot of pieces of this, but technically we're not compliant with the law. I'll just use an example, well, a couple of examples. In technology, the technology department does their inventory of their systems. In the libraries, those systems are inventory. So there's a lot of pieces that take place. And so as a whole, the auditors have not, seen that, which is part of the reason why, in all honesty, it slipped through the cracks because enough pieces of it are happening. We have an asset database. Assets are being depreciated based on their useful life, which is what the California School Accounting Manual requires. That's part of the financial statements. It's part of the audit report. But in terms of doing that as a complete picture, that's really the piece. So technically, yes, we're doing inventory, but we're not doing it, 100% the right way. And it's always our goal to do things exactly the right way, not, just to kind of skate by. I'm not sure if that. So Dawn started with us in September. It's actually, something that I had on my radar because our, previous director, we had also been talking about this, and so we talked about various solutions. I know I forwarded her many chains of emails of historical and how we used to do this back when we were fully compliant and how we'd started to get the ball rolling in the past, and then she just took that ball and ran with it and came up with this as the ultimate solution.
So thank you. I just would like to make sure that we are on top of things, because I agree with Trustee Stafford. Is that the first time, the first thing that we are addressing, we are realizing that we should have done this before. And always, I understand, once in a while, but we don't want this to become a pattern, right? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to call for a vote now. You can vote. Vote is 4-0 on item 12.1. So just keep them on. We have 13.1, an information item, Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium, SBAC, and English Language Proficiency Assessments for California LPAC update.
Right. You have the sheets to pass out to you. Ready to get set up. Well, first of all, President Stafford and the board, we're presenting to you today our 2019 results, and really this year we're presenting in reflection of how it's impacted the California dashboard. That really is the accountability academic indicator for the school district. So that's what we'll be looking at today. We'll also look briefly at our LPAC results as well. Those are the results from our English Language Proficiency Assessment for California. And so I'll jump right into the data, and we'll begin kind of to go through kind of what those, what the results look like this year. Now this is, which one is it? Is it the top one? Right here, right? Okay. I'm going to change the whole screen. So the first off is just some LPAC informational items in regards to that particular assessment, and that really is specifically targeting our English learners. And so on the right-hand side, you kind of see how students fall into different levels in terms of their language proficiency. And so level 1, you see is kind of the beginning stage. Level 2 is they're somewhat developed, some understanding of youth communicating with English. In particular, we're talking about academic English. Level 3 is moderately developed, and then level 4 is well developed. And the goal is for all of our kids to be level 4. And so on this particular indicator, we look at the percentage of kids that are at level 4, and then also we want kids that are at level 1, 2, or 3. We want them to move one performance band per year. And then that comes up with our proficiency, our progress rate that tells us what percentage of kids are maintaining level 4 and then moving in the right direction in terms of gaining proficiency. And so on the next page, you will see specifically we have the 50% that we're currently at right now in regards to our English learners making progress, and so we're at 50.2% making progress. And on the right-hand side, you also see the progress levels. This year, we're not going to get a specific color on the dashboard, but in the future, we're thinking it's going to be something. These are the numbers they've given us. So very low would be 35% making progress. Low would be 35 to 45%. Medium is 45 to 55%. High is 55 to 65%. And very high is 65% higher of our English learners making progress. So right now we're kind of middle of the road. I think the exciting part about that data, if we can move maybe about 5 to 10 points, we move to a very high percentage of our English learners making progress. So we'll look at that data as it relates to specific school sites. This specifically here is the district's number. The academic and college career indicator, just some information on this. So this is made up of our CAS results that we take annually, and you were talking about our ELA and math scores, and that's used to come up with our state academic indicator. It also goes to what we talk about with Goal 1. Goal 1 for our LCAP talks about all students achieving proficiency in math and ELA. In addition to that, the college and career indicator uses the LPAC scores the SBAC scores in conjunction with other measures, CTE, dual enrollment, AP, A through G, to basically give us an indicator if kids are actually college ready walking away from us, okay, college and career ready. So, and then also lastly, just a couple of more information items, because we're going to look at this information, is the term that we use is distance from MET and distance from standard MET. Standard MET is basically the standard that kids are to meet in terms of meeting grade level standards. So we use the term standard MET to represent grade level. And so they take a accumulation of all the scores, and so you see at the bottom, you see all the kids, and you see all their scores, and to the left, you see how they kind of take all those scores and take an average of the score, and that actually gives us the distance from 3, what they used to call it, but the distance from standard MET. And so up top, you'll see a number. So as we look at the numbers, you'll hear me use the term, how far are they away from the standard? We're talking about how far is that particular cluster of kids together, their skill score, which is up top, coming to what's considered grade level standard as we go through the specific screens that we're going to go through. And so also we have the colors that exist as well. And so you see down at the bottom, you have the red, you have the orange, that's kind of like low, medium, then you have yellow that kind of represents medium to high, and then you have green is high, and then blue represents very high. So those are the colors that we'll go through as we look at our indicators. So up here, what we did was we took all of our different indicators, and so you have the 2018 on the left and 2019 on the right, so we can put them next to each other and compare them to one another, and you're able to see that for English learners in particular, I mean not for English learners, for English language arts, you see on 2018 there was a 34, I should have brought my glasses up here, I'm getting older. Let me grab my computer. Okay, we were in a meeting the other day and I couldn't see the screen anymore.
Getting tired.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Kurt is keeping time on me too, so I gotta make sure I keep moving. All right, so for now my computer's freezing. Okay, that's good. All right, so for 2018, we were 34 points below the standard, and you see in 2019 we were at 19 points below the standard. And so we had some growth this particular year, and that growth is right up under where it says 19.5 7, where it was 14.8 points. That was our growth toward that group of kids meeting the standard. Also to the right, I used the arrows to show the growth as it relates to specific subgroups. And so for our English learners, top left on 2018, we have them at 89.4% points below standard, and then on the right you have 85.2 points below standards, and then so that's a 6.1 increase. Now, I won't go through each one of them for the sake of time, but I kind of shared that with the board specifically so you can see that by all the different indicators we have arrows going in the correct direction, that we're seeing growth in all those different areas as it relates to ELA. If you flip over for math, and we have similar results in 2018. For math, we were at 112.7 points below standard, and in 2019, we're at 100 points below standard, so there was an increase in 12 points. Down at the bottom, there's an equity report right down at the bottom of each one of those screens that breaks down the different colors and different groups of students that are located in those reports. And so at the bottom one, where it says there's 5, 2018, where it says there's 5 students in red. If you look at 2019, there's 0 students in red in the following year. So that means that kids are moving in the right direction. And so once again, 2019, you see all the arrows and all the different groups moving in the correct direction, which is basically showing that scale scores and all of our different subgroups are moving in the correct direction. The next slide is CMI, and so I can actually see this one. So as we look at CMI, we have their English arts, the English language arts. They had 27. They were 27 points below standard, and they maintained. Basically, they did not show as much growth, but they're doing a lot of work over there this year, in particular with their teams, and really trying to improve. Their math scores had an increase of 4 points this particular year. And then when we look at their English learner progress, they're at 41% of their students making progress, and so they're basically right under medium, so they will be in the low area in terms of growth for their English learners. And I want to thank Dr. Milos and the work they're doing. They're actually accepting a lot more English learners into their school this year. In the past they had, and he's really pushing really to develop systems really to support their English learners. Pinnacott's English language arts, we see that they're at a yellow indicator, and they're at they increased by 7 points for language arts, and then for mathematics they had a 7-point increase as well, and they're currently at orange. They were in regards to their English learner progress, we see they're at 54% of their students making progress, and they're right there. They're close to being high in terms of the percentage of their English learners that are making progress, and so they're doing some good work over there in terms of supporting their English learners. Heritage High School had a nice increase at Heritage High School. They had a 32-point increase, and so great work, the work they're doing over there. And in addition to that, in math, they also had a nice increase in regards to their scores. They had a 19-point increase, and then their English learners, once again, they're making decent progress with their English learners at 53.6%, so they're right under high, they're right at the edge of medium, and moving in the right direction. Paloma Valley High School, where we had some sizable, is that funny, Grant? They had a sizable increase over there, 55 points, just an increase of 24 points, moving in the right direction. They're above the standard, and so they're not approaching the standard, but they're actually above standard in terms of their skill score. They also had a 25% increase in math as well. So in both groups, Paloma has some significant increases, and then in regards to their English learners, they're making progress. We're at 43% of their students making progress. And in Paris High School, we were at 6 points. They increased by 6 points. And then in math, they maintained at 2.5 points in math. And I know we're doing some good work over there as well, trying to move things in the right direction. Their team was at the district office working yesterday. And then 48.5 points as it relates to just their English learners making progress. So they're in that medium column in regards to their English learners. And so in regards to just some of the work that we're doing with academic and the college indicator actions and services, some of the work that we did last year was really pulling in groups of teachers and asked them specifically what their needs were, and basically based on the reports that they gave us, a lot of the targeted supports that we provided was based on meeting with the teachers, getting feedback from them in regards to what were some of the barriers they felt like were keeping kids from actually reaching proficiency. And so a lot of the work that we did last year was based on that. I thought that was very helpful, probably supported this work in addition to continuing the training around professional learning communities. Some of that work was focused on essential standards for SBAC, in particular targeting IEBs as well. We did a lot of work around the interim assessment blocks, and teachers bought into that and ensured kids had a lot more exposure to those assessment blocks. Some co-planning and co-teaching, a lot of time with them coming in, really unpacking their standards and doing some work. And then data analysis and professional development from site administrative teams, content levels teams, and also site POCs, really looking at specifically what's going on in terms of the results that they're getting. Academic and college indicators, just the action service for ELA. You know, we had the textbook adoptions in the middle school. That's starting to kind of play a role in the work they're about 3 years into their textbook adoption. And then also we just did the adoption for our high school last year. So they just got, actually this year is the new adoption that we're rolling into the high school, and then also the implementation of the academic coaches working directly in the classroom, supporting teachers in regards to content. And then for math, similar to math, full implementation of state board adopted instructional materials. They were in their second year of adoption last year, and they were able to go in and unpack and pull a lot more standards out and really get clear on what their pacing was last year, in addition to the alignment of the core and support classes. Did a lot of work pulling them in. You see the pictures up there of the meeting with Penacotti's team, pulling them in and making sure that support class is aligning with the core class and they're not independent islands. And then also the academic coaches working inside the classrooms is the work that we're kind of pushing this year, kind of move things in the right direction. I think summary successes, just that we increased math 12 points, moving from orange to yellow as a district. I think language arts 14 points, moving from, I think on your sheet it might say 34, that was a typo and I just updated that. 14 points moving from orange to yellow in performance indicator. Challenges are ELs and students with disabilities. They're still scoring a considerable distance from standard, despite the increases that we're seeing. Those groups are still not performing like we want to see them. Next steps is just this conversation around inclusive practices in all core classes. How can we work with some of our identifying those students that do have disabilities that can perform in core classes and make sure those kids are in core classes and have access to core classes. We did a lot of work this year around teacher clarity, unpacking standards and creating success criteria, and teachers really have enjoyed that work. I had a group just finish yesterday, math team, really excited about the work. Say, we've done essential standards before, but now that we're doing teacher clarity, we actually understand what we're teaching and what the standard is asking us. And so that's exciting work. The next step to that is the gradual release model, going district-wide in terms of gradual release model training. The last piece to that is increased effectiveness of the use of our IEBs. I think we did a lot of work with our IEBs and really getting teachers to give them. Now it's really, those tools are really is used as instructional tools to help drive their instruction. So I think that's the next level of work, is teaching teachers how to unpack them and making sure that those become more of a driver of the work that we're doing versus just exposing kids to them, but using them as an instructional tool are kind of like our next steps. Okay? So any questions you have for me? That concludes my presentation.
Just a comment, Dr. Newman. I just want to say thank you for preparing this presentation. This reflects what we have been asking for several years, and we are at that level analyzing the results, disaggregating the data by sites, by demographics, analyzing the successes and the challenges, and what are going to be the next steps. And that's what this is all about. Thank you. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Newman. Our next item is 14.1. It's information item, general functions, Williams Settlement Quarterly Uniform Complaint Report, summary for October through December 2019. Next item, 14.2, information item for discipline, December 2019 monthly suspension report. Next item is 15.1 curriculum, revised ceramic courses, ceramics 1 and advanced ceramics meets A through G requirements. 15.2 is curriculum, revised art courses, advanced placement 2D art and design, and advanced placement 3D art and design meets A through G requirements. Next information item 15.3 is curriculum, revised course titled Agricultural Science and Systems meets A through G requirements. Next item 15.4 curriculum, information item, revised course titled Theater Production does not meet A through G requirements. 15.5 is information item curriculum, new math course, math applications and robotics meets A through G requirements. Next is 15.6, information item curriculum, new science courses, science 9 and genetics meets A through G requirements. 15.7 is information item curriculum, new choir courses beginning treble choir, intermediate treble choir, and bass choir meets A through G requirements. 15.8, information item curriculum, new art courses, advanced placement drawing, and art 3 meets A through G requirements. 15.9, information item curriculum, new theater courses, intro to stagecraft and stagecraft 1 does not meet A through G requirements. 15.10, information item, new physical education courses, unified physical education and foundations of physical fitness does not meet A through G requirements. Information item 15.11, business revolving cash report in December 2019. Next item, information item 15.12, board policies, business and non-instructional operations, series 3000. Next information item 15.13, board policies, facilities, series 7000. Next item is an action item 16.1, closed session if necessary.
Not necessary this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Next item, information item. Okay. Oh, that's a reconvene. Okay. We're going to go to 18.1 is an action item, personnel, certificated personnel action items. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Dr. Freeman, Dr. Rouse, any comments? Trustee Nelson, Dr. Freeman, Dr. Ross? No, none for me. You go ahead and vote. Okay. Okay, that's 18.1 passes 4-0. Next item is an action item 18.2, personnel, classified personnel action items. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Freeman, Member Nellison. Any comments?
No alarms?
Yeah, I'll just abstain. I won't say it. Okay, we'll call for vote. The 18.2 passes 3 with 1 abstain and then 1-0. doesn't sound right, but I guess it's right. Is that correct? 3-0 with one abstention. Thank you, Grant. Next item, 18.3, revised job description, Director of Security. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Member Nelson, Dr. Rouse, any comments? I just have one question, and I can ask for that from Grant. When will we get a next presentation on security? When?
Next month it's scheduled to have a presentation.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Okay, okay, you can go ahead and vote. 18.3 passes 4-0. Next item is an action item. Personnel resolution number 18.19-20, National School Counseling Week. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Rouse, Dr. Freeman, and we can vote on this one. .4 is 5-0 passed. Next item is action item 18.5, Building and Grounds. Proposal for architectural services with PJHM Architects Incorporated for the Penegati Middle School Shade Structure Project, funded through various facility funds and at least at a total various facility funds at a total cost not to exceed $25,000, not the general fund. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Reverend Ellison and Dr. Freeman. You can vote. Any comments? 18.5 passes 5-0. I have an action item 18.6, discipline. Board review of discipline matters. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Member Nelson, Dr. Rouse. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Dr. Freeman, Dr. Rouse. I have one question on one report. I don't think this is the place to ask. Well, I just had a concern about one of the discipline reports. The time frame looks fine. The report looks fine. I just thought it may have been a little more severe. It was the anyway. I'll discuss that with Mr. Bennett. Okay. Any comments? No. Okay, we'll call for a vote. Okay, 18.6 passes 5-0. 18.7, reinstatement of student discipline matters. Do I have a motion?
Second.
That's Member Nelson, Dr. Rouse. Any questions? No? Okay. You can vote. 18.7 passes 4-0. Our next item, 19.1, information, other items by the superintendent.
Nothing else this evening, Mr. Stafford.
Thank you, Superintendent Bennett. Our next item is 20.1, other items by the Board of Trustees. Member Nelson? Okay, Dr. Freeman?
Nothing.
Dr. Rao?
Nothing, sir.
Thank you. And nothing for me. And 21.1 is an action item, adjournment, regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for January 15th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Was that Dr. Freeman and Dr. Rao? You can vote. The adjournment is 4-0. Everyone have a good evening. Thank you for attending. The meeting is over now at 7:45.